All right. Hello. For reading today, you guys are going to need your book called The Case of the Gasping Garbage. It looks like this. So we're going to start a new chapter book. We're still working on the same skills we've been working on, which are essentially what are the motivations of our characters and how do our characters' actions or motivations affect the story. So, what are things that are happening in the story? What kind of choices are the characters making? Or what is it about their personalities that affects the rest of the story? So, here you can see in our story, we have two people on the front cover. I'm looking and I see a magnifying glass, a notepad, a pencil, um, garbage can. And they have like white coats on, like a doctor's coat or a scientist coat. And up here it says Doyle and Fosse, science detectives. So that makes me think that this story might be about some detectives who are also scientists. It's written by Michelle Torrey, illustrated by Barbara Johansson Newman. So it is a chapter book. We're going to try to do about a chapter a day, so this will take us several days to get through. For today, we're just working on chapter 1, which is called Monster Mission. This is pages 1 through 9. Feel free to follow along with me as I read. Good readers track their print. Read out loud with me. And we're going to learn some new words and do some vocabulary as well. All right, here we go. Chapter 1, Monster Mission. Introducing Doyle and Fosse. Science detectives, known throughout the 5th grade for their relentless pursuit of answers. And not just any answers, the right answers. On a damp, drizzly day in an attic not too far away, Drake Doyle worked alone in his homemade laboratory. The laboratory was filled with the latest scientific equipment: a chalkboard, racks of test tubes, flasks and beakers, dozens of sharpened pencils, and a lab coat with his name on it. Drake's hair was quite wild. Some would say it stuck straight up. And the color of toast. Cinnamon toast, that is. And perched on the end of his nose was a pair of round glasses, making him look very scientific indeed, which of course he was. On this damp, drizzly day, an experiment was underway, a very important experiment. The solution in the test tube fizzed and popped. Drake Doyle glanced at his watch, then scribbled the results in his lab notebook. Fizzed and popped. Right on time. Not a second late. Experiment a success. Drake slapped his notebook shut. Serious scientists always slap their notebooks shut. He shoved his pencil behind his ear just as the phone rang. Doyle and Fosse, he answered, speaking in his best scientific voice. Nell Fosse was Drake's lab partner. They were in business together. Serious business. Their business card read, Doyle and Fosse, science detectives. Call us anytime. 555-7822. Hurry, it's a major emergency, someone screamed on the other end of the phone. There's a monster in my garbage can. Drake pushed up his glasses with his finger. Obviously, this was an important phone call. Very important. And important phone calls were more important than important experiments. He set his test tubes aside. Who is this? He asked. Gabby Talberg, she shrieked. Hurry! Oh, hi, Gabby. Gabby Talberg was in Drake's 5th grade class at school. She was a nice girl, even if she did talk too much. Now, calm down and speak slowly. What seems to be the problem? Speak slowly. Are you nuts? I said there's a huge, giant, blood-sucking monster in my garbage can, and it's growing bigger and bigger every second, and I'm alone in the house, and it's going to gobble me up, and I don't want to be someone's dinner. Gaspy, Gabby gasped for breath. Drake was excited. This could prove to be a great day for Doyle and Fossey, science detectives. They'd never had a monster assignment before, and of course, it would be a great day for the small town of Mossy Lake. They'd publish their findings in the local newspaper. Garbage eating monster discovered. Mossy Lake's garbage problem solved. Maybe they'd even lecture at Mossy Lake University. There's Gabby. This is what she's imagining, I think, is happening in her garbage can. You can see that she's obviously quite upset. But Drake couldn't allow his excitement to overwhelm his good scientific sense. That was the first rule of science, and Drake was a stickler about rules of science. He cleared his throat and forced himself to speak calmly. "What makes you think there's a monster?" he asked. "All kinds of weird gasping noises are coming from my garbage can. Something's inside. Hurry, Drake. You have to come over immediately and get rid of it, because if you don't, I'll just have to call James Frisco." "Great Scott!" thought Drake, horrified. Not James Frisco. Frisco was in their fifth grade class at school. Frisco was a competitor. Frisco was a scientist, but he was a bad scientist. A very bad scientist. A mad scientist, you might say. Frisco's business card read, "Frisco, bad," it's crossed out. "Mad scientist, better than Doyle and Fossey. Call me, day or night, 555-6190. Why was Frisco such a mad scientist? Because if Frisco didn't like a number, he erased it. Because if an experiment asked for pink, Frisco used blue. Because if an experiment called for 2, Frisco used 1 or 3. But most especially because if an experiment said adult supervision required or else, Frisco did it anyways, alone. Drake knew that if Gabby hired Frisco, there was no telling what could happen. Knowing Frisco's sloppy scientific techniques, Frisco might let the monster out of the can, and he and Gabby would never be seen again. Gobbled in the blink of an eye. "Drake," said Gabby. "Drake, are you there? I said you have to come over immediately and get rid of it, or else I'll call Frisco." "Check. I'll be right there." Click. Drake phoned Nell. She was the most fabulous partner an amateur scientist and detective genius could have. Whenever they had a serious case, Nell dropped everything and reported for duty. "Doyle and Fossey," she answered, picking up the phone on its first ring. "Drake here. Meet me at Gabby's house right away. Gabby's garbage is gasping." "Right." Click. Nell was already waiting on Gabby's porch by the time Drake arrived. He wasn't surprised, as she was the fastest runner in the fifth grade. With her coffee-colored hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, her scientist cap shoved atop her head, and her mouth set in a firm line, she looked ready to take on this most difficult case. "Afternoon, Scientist Nell." "Afternoon, Detective Drake." And so saying, Nell rapped sharply on the door. Inside Gabby's house, Gabby pointed to a dark corner of the garage. "There," she whispered. "There's a blood-sucking monster inside that garbage can. Hurry up and get rid of it before it eats us all." Suddenly, the garbage can gasped. It trembled. It burped and yerped. It belched and yelched. All in all, it was very scary indeed. Drake and Nell immediately went to work. They pulled on surgical gloves. Snap! Gabby edged toward the door. "You're not going to take the lid off, are you?" "If there's a monster inside," Drake replied, "removing the lid would be most foolish. Now, stand back. We'll take it from here." They tapped the sides of the can. "Sounds hollow," whispered Nell. She scribbled in her lab notebook and tapped again. Drake sniffed the air. Smells like fresh baked bread, he observed. That reminds me, Miss Talberg, isn't your dad a baker? The best baker there is, answered Gabby. He won the blue ribbon last year at the county fair. Why? Just wondering, Drake muttered as he recorded his findings in his lab notebook. Meanwhile, Nell peered at the garbage can with her magnifying glass. She checked its temperature. She drew diagrams and charts. She was a most efficient scientist. Finally, Drake and Nell stood back and removed their surgical gloves. Snap! Well, asked Gabby. Puzzling, said Drake. Fascinating, said Nell. Drake pushed up his glasses. Tell me, Miss Talberg, does your garbage can always sit next to the furnace? Gabby shook her head. My dad moved it a few days ago. Why? It's very warm next to the furnace, that's all, said Drake. 87 degrees to be precise, added Nell. Curious. Very curious, mumbled Drake. He jotted a note to himself in his notebook. What are you going to do now? Asked Gabby. Nell and I will take the garbage can back to the lab for further analysis. Expect our report within 24 hours. Next week, we'll start on chapter 2. You're going to still need your book out while you complete the next part of your assignment. The next part of your assignment is going to be a Jamboard. There will be a link to this in your Canvas page. And this is what it looks like. So a couple things about a Jamboard. You can move things around, you can type, you can make sticky notes, you can draw pictures, you can mark things with a pen, you can make shapes. Now, I know when you guys first get in here and see this, it looks kind of small. So one of the things you can do is you can actually zoom this in to make it much bigger. And then you're just going to have to use your mouse to navigate it. So I'm going to zoom this in some, like so. Now, one of the things that you're going to see is this first page has vocabulary from chapter 1. So here you have a list of words. Here you have definitions. Here you have synonyms and antonyms, and here you have pictures that match. I'm going to do one of them for you because it's kind of a hard one, and that way you guys have an example of what you need to do. So my word is going to be amateur. I'm going to put my word in the middle. Amateur in this scenario means it's a person who takes part in an activity for fun and not for pay, like a job. So in our story, Doyle and Fosse are amateur scientists. They're doing this for fun. This isn't their actual job. They're children in school. They don't get paid. So I'm going to put my definition right here. As far as an synonym or an antonym, so synonym means words that mean the same. So something that means the same as amateur is the word beginner, and something that is the opposite of an amateur would be a professional. That means you're getting paid. So I'm going to put this in this box, and you can actually even make these bigger if you would like, and I'll know that they're in the right box when you do that. And then for this example, for your picture, it's actually just going to be this picture of the scientist because that was who our characters were in our story today. They are scientists. So I would like you to now do the same thing with the words gasping, laboratory, and analysis. Going on to the next slide, you're going to hit these arrows up here. And you have some questions to answer. So the first question is, why does Gabby call Drake and not Frisco for help? Use a sticky note or record a video of you answering this question. So to answer this question, if you want to use a sticky note, you're going to hit this button over here to the left. You can choose what color you want your sticky note to be. You're going to type in your sticky note and save it. Now, if you don't want to do typing on a sticky note, what you can do instead is you can record a video. And so in order to do that, you're going to click this Add Image button. You're going to go to Webcam, and it's probably going to ask you if you want to give permission to your webcam, and you're going to need to say yes. And then from here, you're just going to click Capture. Oh, that's actually giving an image and not a video. That's not going to work. So what I'd like you to do instead then is just use a sticky note. So we're working on restating our questions. So Gabby calls Drake and not Frisco because blank. And you're going to fill in that blank. So that's what I'm looking for there. On the next two slides, you have what do you know about Drake's motivations so far? So by motivations, I mean like, what is it that you know about his personality? And how does he seem? So character traits. Does he seem goofy? Does he seem serious? Does he seem like he's a bad scientist or a good scientist? So what is it that you know about Drake? Make a sticky note and put it underneath here. And then how do his motivations contribute to the rest of chapter 1? In terms of what does he do after he gets the phone call from Gabby? And how does what we know about his personality affect him in chapter 1? The next slide is what do you know about Nell's motivation? So what do we know about Nell's personality? You're going to need to go back into your story and find text evidence or re-listen to me read it. And then how do Nell's motivations affect the rest of chapter 1? So you're going to need 2 sticky notes on this slide to answer your questions, 2 sticky notes on this slide, 1 sticky note on this side, and then you will need to complete our definitions over here. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can always click the inbox button right here off to the side and send me a message letting me know that you have a question or have your parents square me. All right, I hope you guys enjoy this book, and I look forward to reading chapter 2 with you next week. Bye.